First of all, thank you, Gordon, for doing this. Always learn a lot talking to you. Angela just said you're one of the most innovative CAOs. You're actually better at deploying technology than most of the CTOs that I know. And what I found so fascinating about you, having worked together for multiple years, is you're not just interested in technology, but you make sure that it's actually driving an impact, and you're very good at kind of measuring that. So maybe to start big picture, could you kind of describe your philosophy around technology and running an accounting team with technology?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing is that I have very good partners. In order for me to do what I did, as well as how you describe the work that I have done, is because both I have good support from IT team, I have good support from cybersecurity team, and most important, I have good support from partners like you guys. Because accounting, we can really do anything. I'm sure that we all run into our problems. Like, we have a lot of problems. We wish a lot of people can solve problems for us, but we don't have the resources. And being a cheap accountant like me, we always need to look for cheap solutions. And when you have cheap solutions, you don't have good solutions at times. So we are stuck in some way for the longest time until recently with all the AI proliferation of new solutions. You have a lot of good engineers. You have a lot of good people who want to work with you. And I think this is one of the things that makes it all different for me, and how I learned to do it differently is because I get to actually work with good startup like you guys. That literally I call you guys on Friday, I say, change this. Tuesday is on the system, and we are working on it. I think that's the kind of things I never had that opportunity to experience that kind of change at that pace in the past. It just doesn't exist for accounting team. You don't get the kind of support from engineering team to do that for you. And so for us now, it's like, oh, we can receive the same level of support, then why don't I keep asking for more? And I think that's the thing. Once you start asking for more, you're like, oh, it's like a kid in a toy store. You just cannot stop trying, because every single new toy is interesting. And not until you stop trying, you cannot know what exactly is going to work for you. And I think that's the fundamental thing. It's like willing to try and willing to give your team time to learn and accept some level of failure. When you accept some level of failure, it's not a matter of you're 100% going to work. It's how you're going to make it work. And you know there's someone there to help you make it work. As opposed to someone's like, you fell, so I'm not going to give you a next chance to do it again. And I think that's the fundamental issues, is that we now realize we have the opportunity to try all these new things with a very little cost. Like earlier, Taylor was talking about all the POV or POC. We have a lot of them. I don't know, we run about a dozen of them a year with different tools. But not until you tried it, it's not going to know it's going to work or not. And maybe, hopefully, 10%, 20%, 30% works. You already make a lot of improvement just because of that. And I think that is the thing that you're willing to try. I think that's the biggest thing that we have with our culture in our organization.
And just to kind of double click on that, right? You're CAO of a large publicly traded company, and the margin for error is extremely thin in your job. But you're also talking about, hey, I want to encourage my team to try. Yeah. And on top of that, generative AI is non-deterministic. Right? It may give you the right answer, may not next time. What worked in the pilot may not work in production. What is your framework for how people on your team should experiment with technology, and how do you make sure it's actually working within the margins of error that you have?
So we actually spend a lot of time using technology to make sure underlying data is right. As funny as it sounds, I don't need a very complex ChatGPT solution. I need a very good data structure. We are accountant, and we almost always get bad data. We almost always have to fight to find the right source of the information. And funny enough, when you do reconciliation, you realize things is wrong, or you realize the table, the upstream system has been changed. You're not being informed. And then when you close, you're like, oops. Now you're like running around. So we actually deploy AI or automation to actually fix that. Fix the front end, fix all the data coming in, so that people, instead of spending time chasing the individual error, they're chasing is the file that we have, the database that we use, are actually right to begin with. This is one of the most common problems that I actually even talk to my team about is, A lot of times, you get a file from IT. You got a file from engineer. Do they even know what filter did they actually use to create a file? They don't. And if they don't, how do they know that it's the right file to use? Actually, they just simply say, that's what I've been using. That's what the engineering tell us to use. Well, that's the problem. But the team doesn't have time to go learn it either. So that's the friction, is not until we create space for them to go learn that. And how do you create space? They need to stop doing all the transactional processing work and push it out to either automation or to BPO, so that they actually spend the quality time, make sure that all the inflow is right. Then you don't have to worry about spending so much time fixing what is wrong. And I think that is the major friction in that process, is the AI needs to be first deployed on a data level, as opposed to use it to figure out what to do with unstructured data. And to me, that has been the biggest benefit for the team, because they get to learn the data structure. They get to learn where the source information coming from. And most importantly, your engineering team, your IT team now coming to you early enough to tell you that's the problem. As opposed to you find a problem, they realize, oops, we forgot to tell you. We try and avoid that type of conversation, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, I was just thinking, in talking to your team, again, we've worked with many, many people, often ask us questions, I'm looking at you, Brad, that an engineer would ask us and grill us on like these technical details. How are all the pieces fitting together? And I think that's what AI fluency looks like in action, right? Actually learning and engaging with these new technologies. How are you, what is your management philosophy? Are you specifically coaching people on new technologies? What does that track for growth look like that you've created?
So with AI, unfortunately, the accounting career path doesn't look the same anymore. Unlike 10, 20 years ago, you just progress, you learn more and more and more, you progress in your career. The way I see this now is very different. I'm asking the people, how much do you want to grow your career in a way that fits your need? And you need to answer that question. What does that mean? Do you want to learn AI tools yourself? You want to truly only learn technical accounting? You really want to learn project management? What exactly do you actually even want yourself? Many times, they need to have that answer. If they don't, doesn't matter what we tell them to do, there's going to be complaints. I did not like this. I did not like that. So I think the biggest thing that we learn is that how can we create space for you to decide what you want? Because if I ask you to do 9 things, if I don't give you time, I don't give you tools, it doesn't matter anyway. You're never going to be successful. So the first thing we are now doing is like everyone must push X% of your work away from what you're doing. So how do you actually push it away? Where do you push it away? Are you incentivized to push it away? It's all up to you now. We will, if you want BPO, we have BPO. You want automation, we have automation. You want to use like Klarity, you use Klarity. We have a selection of tools for you to pick from, and we'll train you for it. And when I say train you, not simply that we give you a tool, you try around. No, no. We will actually have a training class that are actually administered by the two companies themselves. You do the testing of that. So we'll actually create our own testing. So we have a team of people that actually create own tests of the use of the tool. Once they say you pass that, then you'll be given an actual tool. And then if you use it, we'll actually measure you how frequent you use it. If you actually use it frequent enough, you keep the license. If not, we deactivate it. So we actually measure, ultimately, it's not how much you move it out. We measure is how much you're able to use your time to do something that you haven't had in the past. That's the real measurement. And that's the measurement for you as an individual, how you want to be grown. Because, like I said, you want to be grown in accounting, so be it. You want to be grown in a learning system, so be it. But it's your choice. But it's our job is to create space, create the tools, make available to you. And so I think that is the biggest thing, is empower the team, empower the way they do things. Unlike in the past, you do this, 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 this. You define it for them. No, there's no more definition. You learn to define yourself. You're given the tool. You're given the time. And so I think that is the biggest cultural change in the team, to realize that I need to know, I need to find out what I want. I need to try all these things and I need to actually really like what I want, to do what I want. And I think that is the biggest cultural shift in my team that we have been going through the last couple of years.
So I'm sure there's a bunch of people who are like, oh, AI, great, I'm thrilled, let me get started. I'm sure there's some people who are like, I absolutely don't want to use this, probably not too many, but I'm sure there's a bunch of folks in the middle who are like, okay, interesting new technology, Gordon's given me an opportunity. How do you motivate people to get their hands dirty? And it's a completely different skill set. As you said, folks who are coming from an accounting background may not have been asked to do this before. So how have you kind of gone about that?
I think that there's two ways that we have been approaching this. We have a lot of failures, by the way, guys. For the last 6 years, we tried so many things. We tried a lot of different ways to get people adopted. Some tools, they just never adopt.
Not us, right?
Not you guys. Okay. Thank God. Some of the tools, we have great adoption. So we learned that a lot of times, they don't know how to use the tool. That's why they don't want to use the tool. Second thing is that they don't want to use the tool because they think the tool itself is not sufficient. So how do we actually overcome those two things? So the first one is education, clearly. But the education is not necessarily broadly educate everyone on the team. So we'll pick 3, 4, 5 people who are actually very good at using AI, and they will be our champion in that area. And they take the tool, they show people how they can make improvement, and then once people see the improvement they got, people will come. And then instead of trying to explain what the tool cannot do, the people now focus on what the tool can do so that you can be efficient. So I think that is the biggest thing, is that have people understand that it's possible. And then understand that here's a path to show success. And then lastly is that all the problem that you think you need to overcome, actually, it's not a problem you need to first solve. You can solve whatever you have first. So I think that is a piece that what we learned is that getting the quick win, what are the quick wins defined by each team can be different, and let them define it. And I think one of the biggest things to the name that you guys have is like, it's 1% better every day. We don't need to be like 100% better tomorrow. But how can we create a baseline to know that we are 1% better every single day? What does the baseline look like? And how can we improve based on the baseline? And I think that is a thing that they realize that they are able to improve based on their own pace. I think that's a major difference as compared to you hire a bunch of people coming in, tell you here's what you need to do, and then they have to just do what they say. So that is the piece that we are unwinding. We say, no, we don't do any of those. We want all of our accounting directors, managers, and senior managers, you are the one defining what is the improvement looks like. It's your job. But we are going to free you up to do that job.
On that topic, so you talk about giving people a pretty high level of autonomy, right? Kind of decide what work you're doing, what are you going to push off your plate, and then start using AI. You have a pretty large team, hundreds of people across the United States, across multiple other countries. You have BPO teams. How are you managing all of that complexity in a way that individual managers, even ICs, are able to make and execute on these decisions on their own?
Yeah, so I'm very crazy with operation. So one thing I ask my team to do, they list out every single step they do. When I say literally, it's every single step. You download a file to everything. In order for me to do that, I need actual good managers who actually understand what I'm trying to get to. So number one, you need to get a good kind of a tiger team that actually can help communicate what I want so that they actually can do it. Second thing is that when they realize that if you can use a tool to create all this information to give you visibility you otherwise had not, all of a sudden everyone wants it. An example I will use is that the number you guys shown, we have 1,800 videos. In fact, we ran through 3,300 videos in about 5 months of SOPs. We identified 6,000 steps with the use of your tool. Why do we like it? It's because we now know exactly for every single process, we're able to know what exactly people are doing. But when you start having that list, it is so much easier to have a conversation. Should that work belongs to US or other location or automation? It becomes very specific. It's not like you sit there and talk about it. It's not hypothesizing. It's actual, every single task. So we now measure is, we have so many steps, we know every single step how long it takes. Because I have a video that tells me how long it takes. And then I know if that step can be moved to a low cost or automation. Then I actually can have actual measurement. So now the team come back and say, Gordon, with your tool, I now can tell you exactly how much time I actually save. It's not my measurement, it's not their measurement, there's a tool that measures for them. And they see it themselves. And the more they see it themselves, the more they're going to do it themselves. Because they realize that, hey, if I do this, I can generate this. And now I show that I can free my team up for that. Because every manager hated the conversation to say, team, I have no more growth opportunity for you. That's the last thing you want to talk to your team about, right? And so, but now you say, no, I have an opportunity for you to grow. But it's up to you to decide you want to grow or not. And here's the tool. Here's the task we have. We have the resources we're giving you. Are you ready to adopt these resources? Are you ready to adopt this automation tool? It's up to you to decide. Then at that point, the managers feel so much more empowered to push all these changes through the organization. Because at the end of the day, the manager are trying to do our instruction, but they always feel constrained with tools, resources, and time. You are sitting on top of the Eiffel Tower and you're just giving instruction, Gordon. You don't have to do anything. Of course it's easy for you. I agree. It's useless instruction. So how can we actually create a space, create a tool that actually used in a way they can actually use? And we can measure it. And I don't need you to remove everything tomorrow. Give me your own plan. Tell me, it takes you 3 months, take you 6 months, however plan you want to create. Then I'm at least 1% better. I know I'm 1% better every single day. I think that is the most important thing I want my team to see. They have the ability to make that change themselves.
Super helpful. I want to touch on something that was discussed in the last panel. Michael brought up this concept that AI is like very good at some things. This is of course changing. Generative AI is evolving. And then it's not so good at other things. You've tried dozens, maybe hundreds of applications, many of which have succeeded, some of which have failed. What is like your mental model of, hey, this is where generative AI or traditional AI works well, this is where it doesn't? Are there any examples you can share?
So we generally use AI, I think, in 2 ways. One is, for me, my accounting team has IT as well. So I have my own FinApps team, I have my own BI team. So I actually need the generative AI to help my team to write code. They write the SQL code, they write whatever system code to which they need to do. So that we find that extremely useful if you know what you are asking the tool to do. So if you have a very specific requirement, they can do it for you very easily, no doubt. So the question now is, are you spending enough time making sure you have the right requirements? Are you making sure that you have the right people in the room to make sure everyone is aligned with the solution? So instead of spending time writing code, they now spending time actually talking with the business partner. How can they help the business partner to achieve the goal? So that's on the system side. On the accounting side, we spend a lot of time, like I said earlier, it's a data cleaning. We make sure that you do back testing. This is the word probably everyone hates me say in my close review. Have you actually tested every single file you use before you close the book? If you have not, I guarantee you, you're going to have a problem. So we are actually very rigorous in actually finding tools to make sure all of the data that we use actually is usable. The table hasn't been changed, the metadata is the same, or we make sure that the script that you apply on is the same script that was used last month. So that is the time that people are spending now, as opposed to, it is wrong, let's go find out what's wrong. We try to avoid that as much as we possibly can. So if you look at those two, you need generative AI to actually generate code, very effective. But you need determinative automation to make sure your data is right. You don't want generative AI to make sure your data is right because they cannot tell you that that's 100% right. Unfortunately, in accounting, 99% right is not good enough. I can still get myself in trouble for that. So I think that's the blend of both are required. It's not one or the other, but knowing what you use it for is super important.
And kind of building on that, one of the things that I was struck by about you is the number of vendors that you use that are fairly small startups. It's actually pretty high, much higher than I think most of the customers that we work with. What is kind of your framework for this? Like, what guidance do you give your team about, hey, these are the types of vendors to look for. These are green flags in a technology provider. This is what to be careful of. How do you go about that?
So I do spend a lot of time with meeting all this company. It's kind of crazy as it sounds, I actually respond to a lot of cold calls. A lot of them. I spend, I don't know, like at least a fourth of my time actually respond to cold calls. I like seeing every single technology solution. I just love it. Because you don't know what you're going to get yourself into until you see it. So if you have spent 30 minutes to learn about something, if it's go to waste, it go to waste. If not, you actually potentially find a very important solution that you never thought about. And I think to me, it's worthwhile spending time to do it. I like working with small company because you guys are flexible. You guys can change things like snap a finger. You don't have to go through a lot of like, let me go back and ask my boss, deploy resources and all that stuff. Like, I'm one call away from Nischal, can you do this? And then 2 weeks later, that thing shows up. I think that's the kind of flexibility I really enjoy working with people like you guys. And I think that's the reason why I like working with a lot of startups. And the best part is the engineers I got working with is so much better than what I used to have, right? So seriously, I have Nischal, I have Andrew, your team is incredibly talented compared to what I used to. That's the reality. I cannot emphasize enough, talent is something that makes all this product possible. It's not because that it's not that it wasn't available, it's just not that it wasn't available for us, especially for accounting. That talent is just not there.
And I want to make sure to leave enough time for questions, but I do have one last one for you, which is looking 2 years out into the future. And I know this is very hard to do because technology is changing so fast, but I think you have a very unique vantage point. You're looking at, again, dozens, hundreds of AI vendors. You have a very unique point of view on management and how the role of accounting will change. Can you kind of paint a picture for us of what you think yours and other accounting teams will look like 2 years out, 3 years out?
In terms of the structure, data structure, or in terms of the usage of AI?
A little bit of both. Like, how do you think the role of the accountant will evolve over time?
Got it.
And yeah, how do you see yourself using technology? How would that change?
I think accounting processing, because how powerful the front-end solution that people create, all the processing more or less can be taken care of by AI. So what we are training our team to do is to make sure they get the data right. If the underlying data is right, you can have not very powerful front end, you can still take care of things. And that's why we spend so much time to make sure everyone is trained how to use and create data and manage data in the past year and the years to come. Because that is the only thing that actually we never had clean data. It's our only problem. Like, there's no way we can actually not do accounting quickly if the data is available. It's just the data is not available in the way that we need to use it. So if we can train the people to actually get the information without help from engineering, no code basis, and you know you can extract data correctly, that is the number one thing in my mind that the accounting team is going to move towards. And then second thing is that if we are able to build a data structure that's clean, in the future with like vibe coding and all the stuff, they can actually create their own front end the way they want anyway, that actually fit what they want. So that too is going to come. And in accounting world is that they must learn both the accounting rules and the accounting data structure to marry those two together. And if they can do that, I think the accounting team will be so much more powerful. You will no longer rely on any IT, you will no longer rely on a BI to actually do your basic processing work anymore.
It's a really powerful idea, and I think something we're definitely seeing bits of as well, that code creation, building apps even, is kind of getting commoditized, but knowing what to build, understanding the workflow is absolutely not getting commoditized. And need the subject matter experts there. Awesome, thank you, Gordon. On that note, I'd love to open it up to questions. Gentleman back there.
My last question. Hey, Gordon, 2 quick questions. How do you encourage your remote locations to issue their periodic accounting packages on time? And my second question is, DoorDash being a large organization, do you have the same kind of issues other big companies perennially have with the intercompany balance accounting area, especially reconciliations, and how do you manage that?
Absolutely. Every problem you just mentioned is a big pain for me every single month, literally. I will start with transactional problems such as in the company. We have all sort of operational problems from AR, AP, you name it, we had it. We operate in 30 plus countries. We are multiple currency, and all the data is from Snowflake, literally speaking. So we need to go track down everything, like a better word. So for all those problems, what we really spend a lot of time on, like I said earlier, is data backtesting. May it be intercompany, may it be whatever. We make sure is that before we close, all the data is cleaned up first, so that we don't get ourselves in a situation during the close, we run ourselves into a problem. That's number one. Number two is that because we now spend more time doing the front end, the team has better relationship with the engineering, with other business partners, so that they actually get more information sooner. So we now have recurring meeting with them in advance of the close, 3, 5, 7 days in advance, to make sure they all agree on the things they have changed. So we spend most time, literally speaking, is change management. Because if you fix change management, you have the right basis to close a book. If you don't, you are living in the days like, oh shit, I don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. So that is a problem that we're trying to spend majority of our time focused on fixing. The first question you mentioned about how to make everyone close on time, get everyone on time with all the things. So that one, we are a little bit crazy. We do the task. We have very, very long close tasks by group, by day, by location. And we track them down every single day. And so now, clearly, I'm not going to say you miss one day, that's the end of the world, but we generally have a reasonable number of days of close, and then we say within this days, you need to finish all of them. And then we'll make sure that you get to that end with the right time to deliver the close.
Thank you.
Sure.
One thing that our team is facing is an over-reliance on manual reconciliations in our favorite tool, Excel, and then by extension, sort of a long process of manual journal entry writing.
Yeah.
What have you guys done to automate one or both of those friction points in the close?
So the way I would say that today, we have a high percentage of our journal entries are automated. And because of data cleansing, we do not use any robotic to actually do any manual journal entries at all. Everything is run through script. The reason why we can run through script is because we clean the data up in the front end. You don't have to go pick here, pick here, pick here, and manually manipulate all these things. No, you don't have to do any of those anymore. And that is one of the biggest things we learned is that if I clean my data, your processing is so much less complicated. And then the maintenance is so much less costly. Because we used to have RPA, but it takes all the time to go update RPA, but the thing is that you update RPA with a $200 per person engineer to actually do the change. I can afford that if I'm constantly changing. So we go and clean data, make sure we have the right table, make sure we have the right connections, make sure we enter all the information in one place. So you can just do a simple extract. That is a lot less cost to do that. Second thing, on the manual reconciliation, we still have a lot of manual reconciliations. What we do is that, similarly, we use our Excel. And so we now have new tools to actually replace that. So we try many tools. I have a whole slew of tools that over time we migrate from one tool to another. Literally, I train the team on one tool. Next year, I change it already. Literally, not figuratively. And I'm like, hey, this is faster, then let's do it. And this is, by the way, that's cheaper. That's a very important measurement for my team as well. Make no mistake about it. So the thing is that also it's a learning. You realize this tool can do this. Over time, oh shit, can be done even easier and even cheaper. And over time, you realize that it's because the front-end development cost is so much lower nowadays. So all this new company, they just have a new solution that can actually solve your problem so much more efficient. And that's why I have to keep looking. And I don't know, everyone has their own style, like a better word. So I don't standardize account reconciliation. We have thousands of them. We don't standardize. I don't believe in standardization, by the way, because standardization can go so far, but in order for you to actually maintain the standardization, it's very costly. But if we give people the ability and create a tool that is capable of managing the risk associated with that, that's okay with me.
So you're saying no one writes a manual journal entry?
No, not no one. Very a small percentage relative to the total. Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
Please.
Yeah. So I wanted to know if at DoorDash, do you guys have a line as to what transactions you use AI for? Do you use it for everything in accounting? Are there like significant transactions where you say, okay, I'm not going to use these tools? Let's say like an M&A transaction or modification, or is it just all things go into AI and you trust it through?
So I would say it depends on the team member. Again, AI is a tool for people to use. So people, whether they were willing to adopt or not, it's up to them to decide. How do they make their job efficient and effective is their decision to make. So I do not mandate you have to use certain things. But if you don't do, if you can achieve the same level of efficiency, good for you. But it will require you to deliver X% of improvement every single year. So that's up to the individual director, individual team to decide what is the best way to accomplish that. Because the flexibility here is that I don't believe I have the right idea, by the way. If I have to go tell my team what they should be doing, usually this is going to be problematic. If the person who does it themselves, they don't think about how to improve it, for me to come tell you that what you did is wrong, most likely it's not going to work because they don't believe it to begin with. So the most important thing is how can we enable the team or empower the team to do things the way they want in the most efficient manner they are capable of. And if they need help, they need coaching, they need whatever they want, we should make them available to them so that they can actually learn in the way they want. Because it doesn't matter what I want in many ways, I see it. It's what matters is how can I get to an outcome in the time that I want within the resources I have. I think that's the kind of framework I use to measure that.
And as a quick follow-up, your CFO and board, they're comfortable with that approach?
Oh, trust me, I have to do a lot of analysis to prove that. This is a running joke literally in my team. I spend about 3 weeks every single year to do a NetSuite data analysis as to make sure that my NetSuite system is scalable before my annual meeting with my board. I check everything from the rate count to number of line items to how fast things process within a minute. We measure that on a per hour basis to make sure that we never run through that. So we do very rigorous evaluation to make sure that all of these things work on system. Operation side, we have crazy data. For example, AP alone, exception management. I have 15 reasons why AP did not get processed correctly. I track that on a monthly basis. And I track it by each cost center. So that whenever things goes wrong, immediately it shows up. Now, is it really immediate? Clearly not. But within a month, I will figure it out. And so that is kind of like support. I have to go back to my boss and say, look, I manage it to this level of tightness. And I will make sure that the accuracy is there, not only because we lower the cost, I give up quality. Quality is number one. Is within that quality requirement, how can I get the lowest cost available? I think that is a framework that you have to constantly prove. We create different KPIs to show the quality doesn't deteriorate while the cost is staying the same. All of those, we have clear metrics. And again, because why I like this tool so much is because I go to the level of per step. When I know each step what they do, I know whether they do it right or not. When I know what they do it right or not, how frequent they do it right or not, I know is they working or not. So I think that's the kind of things we go very deep to get to the answer.
Thank you.
Awesome. I think we got time for one more.
So this question actually builds on that a little bit, but I really appreciated your perspective in terms of reframing the requirement for adoption of AI into a challenge of how do you create efficiency, how do you free up a percentage of your time. And I was just curious, from your experience, have you seen any examples where groups have responded to that challenge in a way that you were like, that's really interesting, something that maybe inspires us as a group as we think about, reframing requirement to a challenge to rise to drive efficiency. I'd be curious to see what maybe surprised you with what teams have come back with.
Yeah. So one of the biggest success I would say is that we are able to, once we allow people to choose what they like, very surprising conversations happen. Now, I would say the person who lead my BI team used to be an accountant. She self-learned SQL, self-learned Python, and now she leads my whole team to run all of these things. I have a person who is an accountant who actually built majority of the automation herself, and she's only a senior accountant. Again, it's the important thing is that the person needs to like it. They like it, they will do more of it. They will learn more of it. They'll find ways to solve it. And one of the biggest things I learned in this exercise is that there are two types of people in general. One is when you have a problem, you go find a way to solve it. The other one is like, if there's a problem, you're going to find out who is going to solve the problem for you. There's only two ways. So which way would your organization want to drive? Actually, you need both in some way. You cannot have both at the same time. You cannot have one only. Because the one who go find solution, they may find 9 different solutions. You cannot accommodate 90 different solutions. At the same time, the one who is willing to ask, they need to be willing to have someone ready for them to ask. So I think that is the combination. You need to have the right balance, like a better word. You need some people who are just trailblazer, will do whatever. Some people is like, oh, now I learned it, I want to try all of these things. But both of them, you need to create different incentive. Once you create the right OKR for different group to try, I think that is the most important thing, is aligning incentive to their own development. When they see they are actually, that development enables them to exceed their own OKR that we give them, all of a sudden they want to do more of it.
Awesome. Well, with that, I think we have to wrap up, but I want to thank you again, Gordon, I speak for all of us here when I say it is fascinating to see what AI-fluent leadership looks like. This is going to be a critical skill set for the future for all of us. So thank you again.
Thank you.